Just to introduce myself, my name is Corey Paulson. I work with TVW, which is like C-SPAN for Washington. What does TVW do? I put up this picture of myself, not because you need to see a picture of me because I'm standing right here, but just to remind me to tell you that I was a legislative scholar 10 years ago, which is how I got really, really passionate about working with Washington state government, was my time in this program, and actually getting presented to by the people who were working at Teach with TVW then is what led me to become a part of the program that I'm going to talk to you about today. And then I was a teacher using their program for 10 years, and I just left the classroom last year. And so this will be my upcoming second year out of the classroom, which is a little sad, but also empowering all in the same way. I miss the kiddos and my summer. But besides that, it's really nice to be able to share all of our resources with more teachers to hopefully amplify my impact. So how many of you, and it's okay, are familiar with TVW? Yeah, this is about the number that I get pretty much no matter where I am. It's like maybe 10%. Sometimes we get up to 25%. But just to tell you a little bit about TVW, we are a TV station. Like I said, we're going to go across the street, and we provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of everything that happens in the Washington state government. So that's from Supreme Court hearings, all of the legislative sessions, so that would be on the floor of the legislature, in the Capitol building, but also in all of these rooms. So all of these cameras that you see in the corners of every single room that you are in are TVW. And then there's all of this fiber optic cables that run underneath the streets all the way across to the TV station. And then it is presented, it's streamed on tvw.org, we have our cable channels as well. So you can always see what's going on with your Washington state government all the time. Now, and then, like it says, it provides gavel-to-gavel coverage. So like, it's all 4 hours of the public hearing of the House Appropriations Committee. So it's like a lot. So it takes some time to like navigate through all of those things. What TVW really does do very well is really highlights the transparency of the Washington state government. You know, part of our Washington state Constitution is that we really want to make our government more transparent. And there's always some, kind of conversations about how transparent do we want to be. But TVW, founded in 1995 with all of our gavel-to-gavel coverage, allows you to see anything that you could possibly want to see. It's all archived, so you can find it later as well. And then I can show you as well how to kind of clip things out for your classroom, but that's kind of what we do at the Teach with TVW department. We encourage civil discourse by providing information, not partisan punditry. So we do have a couple of TV shows, like with a host who interviews legislators and things like that. But really, on TVW, they just show you everything that's there so that you have a chance to kind of go through it on your own. So it's not going to be your CNN, your MSNBC, or your Fox News, right? No coverage there. And we also don't do federal politics, right? So the RNC is going on right now. I know I listened to it on my way home on NPR yesterday, but we will not be covering any of those things at all on TVW. So obviously you all are here because you want to teach civics or the government or something like that, but this is the question that I get all the time. Why do you teach, like, it's too political, and why do we even do this? Since we really focus on state and local governments, these are some of the things that I think are the most important things to really, really focus on when we're talking about civics itself, and not necessarily having to talk about politics. Even when I'm talking to like my family members about, politics, and they know that I work for a state organization. They're like, well, what about Trump and Biden? I'm like, that's federal, and you guys can formulate your own opinions on that and how you're going to talk about that with your family, but we're really talking about state government, so let's talk governor. Let's talk commissioner of public lands. Do we know what that job does? And trying to get that into the classroom as well. So really, why do we talk about it? To safeguard self-government, the health of the republic, to showcase how it works, to show our students actually how it works so they can get involved, so they're not just whining and complaining. I taught middle school and high school, predominantly 8th graders, so any of you middle school teachers out there know that they love to share their opinions, but sometimes they aren't always backed up with a real deep understanding about how things work. And so what we do at Teach with TVW is really show how it works by focusing on actual issues that are going on in the government themselves. So, politics don't have to be partisan either. So data does suggest from like the Pew Research Studies or the Annenberg Foundation that teachers are not preparing students to talk about the size of government, the government's role in perpetuating systems of power, the role of the courts, how does that work, the right way to balance democratic participation against concerns of integrity. And I clipped this. One of the things that we at TVW have, because all of the cameras and we're there for everything, is a unique access to talk to legislators and to provide those interviews directly to teachers. And so this here is outgoing Representative J.T. Wilcox. He's retiring this year. We had a chance to go to his house to interview him about some of his opinions, about things that he'd seen in the legislature over the last 12 years, and I got to ask him this question. So, how do you think teachers should talk to students about political parties, knowing that there's this national level discussion about Republicans and Democrats going on?
Talk about local elections first. It's a tragedy that everyone looks through the lens of who's going to be president as if that's the only thing that matters. It's probably one of the things that has the least impact on what happens to us here. So I would look at state level campaigns and decide, is this person trustworthy? And I would say the one thing that I would urge people not to do is don't screen them for, are they saying everything that I want them to say? You know, really in life, you learn that your best friends sometimes are the people that are not afraid to tell you when you're making a mistake.
Well, and it's easy, of course, to say, like, we should talk about local politics. Just talk about local. Ignore the craziness that's going on at the federal level. However, without actually having some meat for kids to talk about at the local level, it's just not very interesting. You're like, okay. So what we do at Teach with TVW is provide that access to those local politics, to those local issues for your classrooms. So we have 5 main programs, and I'm going to go through these kind of briefly, but again, all of this will be available to you, and they're also all on our website. And I have slides for each of these, so just bear with me real quick. Capital Classroom is our flagship program, and I'll talk about that briefly here in a second. Capital Classroom Plus is like an add-on to our flagship program. Teach with TVW on the Issues is a partnership that we do with the legislature and their legislative pages. It was a pilot last year, but we're going to continue it because it's such a great program. And then Elections Explained is the program that we're doing right now as we are trying to get everyone ready to talk about state elections in their classrooms. One of our programs is called CONNECTS. We generally run this in the fall. And what this does is allows classrooms and individual students to talk to people in positions of power. So last year we had the governor who was interviewed by students. And essentially what happens is you, through our newsletter, would sign your classroom up to submit questions to whomever we're interviewing that time. So this is Justice Raquel Montoya Lewis, who we interviewed last year. So we sent out a research packet to the classrooms, like here's some things that she's done. Here's what Supreme Court justices do, some information. The classrooms would research a little bit, write some questions, record themselves with the questions, send those in, and then we narrow down the questions for the justice, because we can't ask her like 55 questions because it's only an hour-long program, and some kids ask the same questions. So we narrow those down, and then we have a live show. So students can also join this Zoom live, and they get to ask whoever the guest is questions that they really want to know about. So it really empowers the student to talk to somebody who's really in that position of power there. These are often done after school. So it can fit with students' extracurriculars and things like that. So that's one of the programs that we offer. Like I said, we do not offer Connects during the legislative session, because during the legislative session, we're very busy with the legislature, but in the fall and spring. And obviously not during the summer either. And this is just an example.
First up is Neha.
Hi, my name is Neha Taneja, and I'm a senior at Lake Washington High School. I learned that when you were a court judge in Whatcom County, you presided over the therapeutic drug court. From your experience, do you feel that since you were appointed in 2019, progress has been made in cases with those who suffer from substance abuse issues?
And so you can see this is just an example of a student who asked this question. This is something that she was passionate about. She wanted to know about therapeutic drug courts and how they worked and how they'd changed over the last 4 years. She's not my student. I don't know why she wanted to know that, but that's something that she was really engaged with. It's a great question. We provide teachers with some tools on how to write a quality question to interview someone. So coming with a fact and then the question following up so that they really know what to build upon and what she's going to talk about. And then also the other cool thing is that all of these full-length episodes are available on our website, hour-long episode with Justice Montoya Lewis that you can watch now with your classes. And there's a bunch of discussion questions that go along with them. She talks about, and she's going to talk about the 100-year anniversary of the Indian Citizenship Act today. But in this interview, she talks about the Indian Child Welfare Act. She talks about the distinction between her times on tribal courts and in the state courts and then on the Supreme Court. So all of that stuff is kid-driven interviews, but are totally all still usable today. And then you can see that students are really passionate about that. Okay. Our flagship program. Now this again is the program that made me want to involve TVW in my classroom. So essentially what it does is we have partnerships with volunteer lobbyists, so lobbyists who work for whomever they also work for, but then they volunteer with us. We partner a lobbyist with an individual classroom. That classroom will then choose a bill to follow throughout the legislative session. The lobbyist will help them kind of narrow down that bill of something that they're passionate about. So the classroom is invested. It's something that they're really engaged in to start off with. And then generally they'll choose maybe 3 or 4 bills based on that topic, because the worst thing is to give a classroom a bill and then it dies in the first session. You're like, oh, sorry, I know you're really passionate about that, but it's gone, nobody cares. So we give them a few bills to kind of work through so that they can continue to fall. And then throughout the legislative session, and we have a long session coming up, so this is it's a little bit more flexible with whatever you're teaching in your classroom. You conduct about 6 30-minute meetings with that lobbyist, where students can ask questions of the lobbyist about either the legislative process or about specifics of their bill, or hey, I really want to testify on this bill. How do I do that? How do I sign up to testify? Where do I go? The legislature during COVID had to be a little bit more flexible on virtual testimony, and that hasn't gone anywhere. So they're going to continue to do virtual testimony, which makes it so much easier for students to testify, although also being aware that sometimes you're given a 2-hour window of you're going to testify between 8 and 10. And so for a student that can be challenging, but also our lobbyists, because they have connections, can be hey, I have a 7th grader from this class coming in to testify. Can they go first? And often they'll be able to kind of work that out for us. I mean, I can't guarantee it, but that's something that when we do have students there who are there. So they'll do research on that bill topic. They'll examine the complexity of the issue. They can listen to and make public testimonies. One of the things that we do at Teach with TVW, because I know from being in the classroom that I do not have time to watch a 4-hour public hearing to find the best pro and the best con testimony on that bill we're following. Sorry, I don't have that much time as I'm grading all my other things. So we at Teach will go through that testimony for you and then clip it out for you. So I'll be like, here's 4 pros, here's 4 cons that you can look through. You don't have to listen through all of those other bill testimonies that are going through there. Because really it's our goal to help you all empower your students as much as possible and make that easy for you. Some of our classes have written amendments to the bill. A lot of our Capital Classroom classes have been a part of our program for like 10 years. So as they keep on going through, sometimes they are, they will start doing a little bit more. They've written their own bills. They write amendments to bills. They testify on bills. These are all things that your classes can do, and then we help you with those things. They also meet with stakeholders. Executive branch members, legislators, community members, all through Zoom, and then we are the ones who are helping facilitate that for your classroom. So we through Teach with TVW, because again, we have that TVW access that we like to use for you. Yeah?
Yeah, well, I've got the Capital Classroom pulled up right. Do you have to be one of the participating classes to have access to all this? Because I'm seeing my district is not on there.
So, but you could be on there. So you could be a participating class. All of the stuff that's on there, you can have access to. Those are individual schools that you're seeing. Those are the schools who have worked with us in the past. So those are their like individual sessions that you're seeing there. All of the resources are still available to you. But if you signed up with us, said, yes, I would love for my class to get a lobbyist. Can you get me a lobbyist? Then we would start working with you individually on trying to make that happen. So.
Are there districts, because I know like each district has different rules for everything.
Of course.
Are there districts that like don't allow it, or like, I don't know, privacy of kids' faces, or and like you've been told, no, you can't come in?
So we have had some, we've had at least one school who hasn't wanted us to record the Zooms, and we were able to accommodate that. But generally, no, all of our, I think you're noting that all of those videos are password protected. So once, so that the parents and the students can get in. It's also great, like if you have a kid who's absent that day, and then you want to, we want them to watch what they learned, then they can go directly to the video. But I have not found districts that are like, no, you can't come in. None of those things. Not yet, but I don't want you to be the first one. So that's not gonna work for me. Steph, have you seen anything? No. Yeah, so there you go. I've only been there, so I've been at TVW for a year now, 1 year. So again, just to kind of remind everyone, like this is such an amazing program for your students. These right here, whoa.
Can it be scaled down for fourth grade?
So we have yet to run with a elementary school. I think that we could scale it down, and that would be something that we could talk about individually. Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to show you just again kind of what this.
TVW web services provided by WellPoint.
Sorry about the commercial.
So hello again, class.
So this is kind of what it would look like.
We are on day 12 of the legislative session.
And so you just like there's the lobbyist.
A wild flurry of activity already. I'll go ahead and get into where the bills are at a little bit later, but everything just about has had something happen to it, which is very exciting. And so I think I told you I was going to testify virtually.
So what she's going to do at first is kind of update the class on where the bills are, and then we get to, and this is my class, so.
And some of the hearings, they had over 3,000 applications to testify. So how do they choose who testifies?
Yeah.
And so then he'll ask, just like a basic question. I'm like, how do legislators even decide who gets to testify when there's 3,000 people signed up? And then the lobbyists will be able to answer those questions for you from, inside the room, kind of that insider knowledge that not everybody has a chance to get. So just to kind of show that example there. Sometimes, however, maybe your classroom doesn't have time to sign up for being engaged every week or every other week with a lobbyist for 30 minutes, and it's like too much for you to fit in with all your standards and all the things, and that happens, right, as well. We also run what we call Capital Classroom Plus. Now, Capital Classroom Plus is, well, so that's me again, as you can probably see, is a weekly 5-minute kind of bell ringer show that will update you on what's happening in Washington State, in the Washington State legislature for during the session. It'll drop once a week, and what it will do is have some curated public testimony videos. It'll be attached to it, whatever bills that we're going to be following this year. Last year we followed climate-related bills, environment-related bills, 3 of them. One made it all the way through. It was very exciting because like they kept on like dwindling down. Because I just wanted to show the students like what happens when they go all the way through. So one made it. This year we're going to be following education-related bills, but I don't know which ones yet because it's still the summer. And so we'll get weekly updates, how-tos on how to access the legislature, but then there's also opportunities for student interaction. They can ask questions of lobbyists. We have all that available. You can do that all over email. Comment on the legislation, learn how to attend and testify at public hearings. And like I said, we do have, again, access to legislators who are super excited to talk to students, and they really enjoy it. I'll show you, this is an example.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this.
No, this is great. Whenever young people have questions about the process, we always say yes. It's probably my favorite thing, is to engage with young people and get them excited and let them know there are folks that, care.
Right? We actually do care. We're doing something for this, right? Absolutely. Okay.
Okay, so then I go and I actually talk to her about the bill. And again, this is all of this is available on our YouTube channel, on our website. It's all still there. This happened to be an environmental crimes bill. This is the one that passed. But I went to her with questions from classrooms that had submitted them to me. And then I went to her with those questions. We recorded this, and then we shot it back out to the classrooms. This is the one I'm very, very excited about, and I'm hoping that, I'm very excited about all these things, but this one I'm really excited about. And this is called our Elections Explained curriculum. This summer we have been super busy. We've been all over the state going to political conventions. We went to the Republican State Convention in April. We went to the Labor Union Convention in May, June, I don't know, we've been very busy. We went to the mainstream Republican convention, and then we also went to the Democratic convention that was just a couple weeks ago. And we made short 5-minute, 6-minute videos about each of those conventions. All of these videos come with lesson plans that are on Google Docs, and so they are editable. You can change them any which way you'd like, but they are also ready to use in the classroom, so you can kind of copy them and do whatever you want with them, but they all come with all of these links. So we have information on all of the conventions. Why do we care about conventions? What do they do for us? How do they help people understand what's going on in the elections? We have videos on redistricting. Right now, we have our video on the top 2 primary, which is coming out on Friday. So that your ballot should probably be ending up in your mailbox either today, tomorrow, or Friday. So our video will drop corresponding with those ballots coming out. And then it also has a lesson plan attached to it that has primary sources, old ballots in it for students to really kind of grapple with that information, take a look at it. We'll do videos on debates that are going on, but not the presidential debate, because I was a debate coach for 15 years. I watched the presidential debates. This one and the ones in the past, but they do not follow the rules of debates. Special rules for the debates. But if you watch, say, the Attorney General debate, actually did pretty much follow what we would say is a traditional debate structure. We're going to put a video out on the voter's guide. We put a video out on filing week, which sounds super boring. but it's actually very interesting. And we have a great interview with Secretary of State Hobbs, who I know that you guys met with yesterday. He's fun. He's like an engaging guy. He did a good job on the video as well. He's at his, I don't know if you guys got to go into his office, but he's sitting at his desk, and like right behind him, he has like a Captain America shield. He has all these like toys on his desk. It's like he's a very engaging office as well. And about filing week, about the path of the ballot, I know that you had a chance to go see the auditor's office. So we have some videos there. And again, it's all focused on like, how do elections work? What are the intricacies of elections? I think we often tell our students, like, when you can vote, do it. And yes, like, I love voting. Voting's amazing, it's my favorite thing. My daughter just turned 18. I was very, very pumped for her to vote. But I don't know if we often teach like the intricacies of the elections. And our videos really, when we look at the top 2 primary, it doesn't just say, well, the top 2 primary is when the top 2 make it to the general. That's true, although I don't think most Washingtonians know that. But also, like, what are the political strategies that parties have to employ in a top 2 primary state? We're very unique in, well, we're just regularly unique in that. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about is how to get your students involved in the elections. So, like I said, with our unique access that we have to candidates, to legislators, this year what we're doing is we have, when all of the candidates came in to TVW to record their video voters guide, which you can access on tvw.org at any time, where you can see their statement about why you should vote for them. And so let's say all 28 candidates for governor came in and recorded their video voters guide. Now, it's going to go through the primary, and we're going to get 2 out of those 28. Now, I can make an educated guess who I think those 2 are going to be, but I won't know until after August 6th. At that point in time, we'll take the top 2 videos, and we're going to put them in a package that we're going to then send out to classrooms. Because what I had a chance to do was, when they were there, is they recorded their regular video voters guide, but then I got to ask the candidates individual questions from me, which were things like, what are the top 2 issues that you think students should be paying attention to in your race? And I did that for governor, attorney general, OSPI, and commissioner of public lands. So those 4 top races that really are impactful for students. And then we'll package those together where they're answering questions that nobody else is going to see, just the classrooms that sign up for this, because it's really just for students of like, what are the top 2 issues you think students should pay attention to? They'll watch those, and then they'll have the chance to write questions, like in that Connects episode, for the candidates. We'll record students asking those questions, and then we will give them to the candidates. The candidates will answer them, and then we'll give them back to the classrooms. Obviously, if we get, hundreds of questions submitted, we're not going to ask, Bob Ferguson 100 questions. Like, that's probably not going to happen. But we'll narrow it down, and then they'll go back out to the classroom. So students really, again, get to be empowered by having people in power really listen to them. And so, again, all of this is on there, is on the website as well. And this is what the elections explained will look like as well, except it's a different color. We also partnered with the Legislative Page Program this year, where we engaged the pages who are here. Leo, have they heard about the Page Program yet?
Not too much in depth yet.
Okay, well, students 14 through 16 can sign up with their representative or their senator to come down here to the legislature for a week to work with their legislator. They stay here, they go to Page School, and when they're in Page School, then they can also work with us at TVW, where they research a particular issue. This issue was on public transportation. They researched the issue, and then he recorded his question in our studio, so it looks all nice and pretty. And then we took his question to chair of the Transportation Committee, as well as the ranking member. So you get a Democrat and a Republican answering the exact same question. And then again, we sent it back to the classrooms. We also put them out on our YouTube, on our social media, and on our website. They also run on the cable channel, like on our TV channel. So again, students really get to see themselves being engaged in that way. And yeah.
So just curious, what's the age?
The legislative page program is 14 through 16. As an 8th grade teacher, I would always try to get them kind of as they're going out, because most of the time they're not 14 by the time that the legislative session is happening. So as they're going into 9th grade, I was like, in 9th grade, remember, when you're not taking US history at all, you can still go be a page, and I will write your letter of recommendation. So just like, let me know. It's very easy to sign up for. I coached high school debate, and I would have my high school debaters often do it. Yeah, it's a great program. Mm-hmm. And like I said, in our partnership with them, we really wanted to get the students who were here not only learning the process, which they're learning through the PAGE program, but then having a chance to really dive in deep on a particular issue. And we put out 6 of these episodes, and each week we did a different issue. And so, like I said, this one was on public transportation, which, I have to be honest, I saved this one towards the last because I was like, no kid is going to be interested in transportation. Like, how do I make this engaging for the students? But actually, we had a wide interest of like all the different aspects of transportation. He's asking a question about safety on public transportation in Tacoma. We had another student who asked a question about culvert removal and the relationships with tribal nations. So we had a wide variety of questions. And again, these are all still available and available to use in your classrooms now. Right? Unfortunately, the culvert situation has not changed much since April. All right, so here's the aforementioned QR code to sign up for our newsletter if you'd like. What this will get you is during the legislative session, it'll get you those weekly updates that I talked about. They'll be in video form, but there'll also be some written aspects to them as well. All of our new video content. So you sign up for this newsletter today, you will get our top 2 video. Congratulations. Where we, have interviews with former Secretary of State Sam Reed, who is known as the father of the top 2 primary, also voting by mail. He's still out and about doing all exciting things. He's in his early 80s, and he's just promoting his work still out and about. So all new content. Anytime we're going to interview anyone over Connects. For our Connects episodes, those opportunities will be out there, and then all of our elections information. So if you're like, yes, I really do want my students to understand about the Commissioner of Public Lands. It's a role that I don't really understand very much, and I think that it's important for us to teach that. That will come out over our newsletter. Like, okay, we're now collecting questions for the candidates for the Commissioner of Public Lands, and then you can contact us that way. So our newsletter is the best way that you'll get everything that we put out, and you won't have to check in. So does anybody have any questions before we take a little stroll across the street?
So there's a wait list.
For our Capital Classroom program, we just say put you on the wait list because we only have so many lobbyists. But generally, we can accommodate anyone who wants to be a part of it. So say, put me on the wait list, and then I'll contact you, and I'll be like, we have a lobbyist for you. We have to make sure that most of our lobbyists consider this Capital Classroom time the highlight of their legislative session. This is where I get to volunteer and work with the students and feel that the future is safe in the hands of these kids. So they really want to be a part of it. So.
It starts with the class trying to identify something that they're interested in.
Generally, yeah. But you can also, the way that I would often work with my lobbyist when I was in the classroom is I would meet with her maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the legislative session opened. By that point in time, I had enough time to kind of get used to my class, knew who they were, maybe what they were interested in. And then I would talk to Marissa and I'd say, all right, my students really are interested in AI or what have you. And she'd be like, okay. And then she'd go do some research and say, well, it looks like there's these 3 AI bills going on. Or other years, like, you know, my students, their interests are so varied. Can you come to me with some bills that you think are going to be maybe controversial this year? And then we could have that partnership and that conversation there.
The lobbyist is advocating for all of the bills that we would be.
Yes, they are advocating for you. You become their client. Like your classroom becomes their client. And so in that, if you happen to pick a bill that they like work for in their actual paying job for that client, then they would encourage you to pick a different bill. So because they don't want to go against themselves. Right? They can't testify for Comcast and for you at the same time if they're, you know, against one another. We had that with a lobbyist who worked for food banks and then also a class that wanted to advocate for something that the food banks did not want them to do. And so that was a conflict of interest in that way. So he just didn't participate on that particular bill, but then did on the other bills that they were looking at. So that was a class that had like 15 bills because they had like 100 students in the program. So that was easier for them to kind of focus on that way.